Right, this one's for Dave. Dear Dave Miller, I'd like to thank you for putting some of your sermons on CD. Oh, that's nice. I have several, and when I can't sleep, I listen to them. Oh, that's great. Signed, John Schmidt. All right, very good. This one is for Sarah. Dear Sarah, we are so hoping to join you for your 30th here, and I wanted to write you a note of encouragement. I appreciate how you minister to people. I wish Nelson would talk less and let you talk more. Ha ha. The only person that talks more than Nelson is my husband. God bless Dorcas Stutzman. All right, this one is for Nelson. Dear Nelson, I wanted to write you a quick note. With all the busyness of your Easter tour and then this auction weekend, I haven't been able to catch up with you. There's been some things that have happened in my life recently that I'd love to share with you. Let's get together for some coffee sometime. Love, Sarah Koblenz. All right. What I want to do real quickly, if you are Steve and Dorcas, Dave, Ruth Ann, all you guys, if you would come up here, and Dwayne, Cindy, Nelson, and Sarah, where are you guys at? Could you all come up here too? Can we give them all a big hand tonight? We appreciate these guys so very much. All right, very good. And I guess, yeah, if you guys just want to start on the end and work your way down, that would be great. This is something I've looked forward to doing for quite some time.
I was flying up in Canada. Dwayne and Cindy were on that airplane too. And it was a float plane. You took off on water and landed on water. You know, and so it was windy, and I already told the pilot we maybe shouldn't do it. Yeah. And he was like, we're gonna do it. I said, well, you're the expert. But we got up there, and when we got up in the air, you know, he'd already showed us where the bags were. But when we got up in the air, you know, the thing started doing this, and so it's bag number one. And I was just sick as could be. Then he lands on the water, and then he goes outside. He said, we're going to go down a little bit and land on the water, and then we're just going to wait until kind of some of the wind passes by. So he's landing on this water, and then the airplane is just going like this, and he steps out, and he steps on the float, and he says, we're going to pump water out of this thing. I was like, you're pumping out water out of what? And he said, well, the water got some floats in it. And he said, the float's got some water in it. It's been a long day. And he said, you can come out and stand on the rudder. I said, I'd rather not. But he took off again. We hadn't got up in the air just very much, and it was bag number two. And then he said, we're going to land somewhere, and then we're going to let, you know, Sarah and the girls and all of them, we're going to pick them up. You rest in the van while I come go, and I'll come right back and get you. Bearskin Lake. So I get in the van, and the van was going around in circles all the time, just going around in circles. You know, and so finally I hear the terrible noise, they're coming back. So I hear the engine, they're coming back to pick me up. They pick me up, we get up in the air, it wouldn't have been up very long. It was bag number 3. It was like Bad Black Sheep. I had 3 bags full by that time.
You know, Nelson, that's not the first time that you've gotten your words mixed up. Did you ever... I think I'm going to slide over here. Have you guys ever heard Nelson say, can we give God a clap offering of praise? Many times. Well, one time he wanted everyone to clap for Sarah, so he said, can we give Sarah a clap offering of praise? Steve, let's see, Dorcas, you guys would have grown up, the kids would have grown up on the road with you guys when you were with Gospel Express.
Yes, Sarah was always an inspiration to me. She always seemed like she just had everything under control, and I just really looked up to her. And I thought, you know, she made road life look so easy. Well, I found out that it wasn't all so easy. When my youngest daughter, when I got pregnant with her, I was sick all 9 months. I threw up 2 weeks before she was born, to give you an idea. And so here we were on the road, traveling up and down in this bus, and it was literally up and down sometimes. And Steve, bless his heart, he tried real hard not to drive at night because I would just get really sick in the back of the bus. So we tried not to do that, but one famous night, we had to do that. Probably Nelson scheduled us that night, but we love you, Nelson.
I drove with the Stutzmans when we drove at all hours of the night as well.
That's true. Anyway, we had this young guy driving for us. He was maybe about 23 years old. And he was just watching this whole scene unfold. So he's up in front driving, and I'm in the back getting sicker and sicker, and I thought I better go up front because this is not good. So I went up there, sat down. Of course, he had no idea what was going on, and we were making small talk, and all of a sudden I realized, folks, this is not good. I better run to the back. About halfway back, I realized I'm not going to make it to the back. Long story short, I got this all cleaned up. I walked limply to the front, flopped in the jump seat, and wouldn't you know, this 23-year-old guy in all of his infinite wisdom looked at me and he said, I've just been thinking. He said, are you sure that morning sickness isn't all just in your head? There was some fear of the Lord that was taught in the next 10 minutes.
Dave and Dwayne, I'm curious, how many years have you each been with the ministry?
I would have started in 85.
29 years. So you were there from very much the beginning. I bet you have some early stories.
I remember in fact, there was a tent setting. Nelson, Sarah, remember when the girls were still singing all together there, and down in North Carolina, tent meetings, we were invited to sing. And it'd be one of the most embarrassing moments because we were singing, we're used to going to prison where, they interact with you, and so you're used to that type of interaction. Well, at this tent meeting, we were singing, did all of our songs, but then we were singing Together in Heaven. Remember that song? And we did all of our songs, and they were excited. They were interacting with us. Wasn't at a Mennonite church, Pentecostal church. In fact, I don't think we got invited back, did we? But anyway, there one gentleman down the center aisle, he was getting excited. He was getting blessed by the songs. And partway through a number of the songs, he was getting out. He was getting our attention. But we got to the song Together in Heaven, and he come unglued out of his seat. And he was running around the back of the tent. Then he came up the center aisle. And we were all trying to keep it under control up here. We didn't know what was going to happen next. And he turned and went out the side of the tent, and he was running around the tent, and he caught some kind of electrical cord there and out and all the lights in the tent. But we were singing Together in Heaven, and we couldn't get through the song. We all stopped. That was an embarrassing moment.
Very embarrassing.
Dave, how long have you guys been with the ministry?
1999. It's actually just right at 15 years.
Wow. Tell us one of your favorite stories.
Well, there's so many, and I know we have limited time. And I've seen Nelson roll on the floor. This is a side of him you don't see.
No.
But I've literally seen him rolling on the floor laughing. But we'll just leave that. But last year you referred, Ryan, to
Florida prison. Nelson was on the floor laughing.
Yeah.
There were also prisoners. But there were also prisoners on the floor laughing. I have never seen prisoners on the floor laughing until being with Ryan in the prison in Florida.
You have to understand that Nelson has heard a lot of my jokes so many times from being together so much. So my goal is to make Nelson laugh, and if I do that, I feel like I've accomplished it.
Well, you referred back to Africa. What was it, a year and a half ago when the 6 of us were together, and we had this native group who, in Kenya, this particular group didn't know Nelson as well as some other places as we went, and so they didn't know what kind of a singer he is. And so every service, they had their own staff there, their native staff, and they would do all the singing, and we'd always get his guitar out, and we'd set it up, and we'd tune it up and all that, and the first couple services, he never got to use it. And so at the close of the service, Ryan would always pack it away, and it was never used, and all of a sudden Ryan, he said, well, Nelson, there's one good thing about this. He said, if you would ever sell this guitar, you could advertise it as rarely used.
Yeah, it was a Baptist guitar. Once tuned, always tuned. Nelson hasn't heard that one. Cindy, you had a story.
Yeah, I've always appreciated the way Nelson does everything with passion, whether it's preaching or praying or whatever it is, he puts himself into it. And I'll never forget the time, this was quite a few years ago, I was traveling with our family, and we were sharing at a church in Ohio, and Paul Mark Miller was with us. And as I think the team was done singing and they were leaving the stage, Nelson had everybody stand up for prayer. And as he started leading everybody, or he was praying, people had their heads bowed, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw Paul Mark, and I think he was turned around to see if Nelson needs anything. But he was backing off the stage, and he missed the last step, and he fell down and he caught himself. It looked really funny. But Nelson was, in the middle of his prayer, he had to stop because he was laughing. And he was trying to get his composure, get together, and went on and finished the prayer. Afterwards, somebody came up to him and was telling him that they really appreciate the way that they could tell he was so passionate. His prayer was so filled with passion and emotion, and it wasn't quite the way it appeared. But that is the only time that has happened. I mean, it's the only time.
Ruth Ann, what do you remember?
Well, we have learned a lot from Nelson and Sarah, anything from public relations to stage to social graces, and you get all kinds of responses after a service. You know, one instance that I recall that I heard about was after a service, as Nelson's back there shaking hands with people, he met this guy that just said to him, "Sherwin Fast," as he lifted up his hand to meet him, and Nelson was like, "Well, that's kind of different." Yeah, sure did. And then I believe, if I have it right, they took him out to eat afterwards, and I think he gave you a business card sometime during that time. And to Nelson's horror, as he looked at the business card, he noticed the man's name was Sherwin Fast, and he was introducing himself, and he had said, "Sure did."
That was embarrassing. Very embarrassing.
Well, and it's funny because you meet all these wonderful people and they all have their stories. I was on the Stutzman's bus, and I was out in Hutchinson, Kansas, and we did dinner with a family, and I asked them, because it's just flat. There's just like a little around, and I said to the teenagers, "What do you all do for fun?" They said, "Well, nothing really." I said, "Well, you guys have a Saturday night. What do you guys do for fun?" I said, "No, seriously, I want to know, what do you guys do on a Saturday night?" And he said, "Well, we do have some four-wheeling trails." I said, "Well, that's pretty cool." They said, "Yeah, we just don't have any four-wheelers." So I told that story on the Alaska cruise, and the people were in the crowd, and they were mortified that I told this. I didn't say who they were. So afterwards, a couple weeks later, I got an email. "Ryan, this is those people that you tell the story about, the four-wheeler from Hutchinson, Kansas. We just want you to know that we got four-wheelers for the kids, so please stop telling that story." So I single-handedly am responsible for giving teenagers in Hutchinson, Kansas something to do on a Saturday night, all right? Yes, thank you. Oh my. Well, you know, we really do have to wrap this up, but Steve, what do you guys remember?
Well, there's a lot of things that happened. One of the things, Steve and Annie Chapman, Steve wrote a song that says, "It's hard to be cool when your fly is open." And one of the things that you really want to do when you get up on stage is you want to make sure that your zipper is closed.
Why did we invite Steve Stutzman into this panel?
So Nelson, I'll let him tell you the story, but he kind of caught himself on the wrong side of one of those deals once.
And my wife has already said, "Honey, be careful how you say it." Because she's my wife. My sister Sarah ought to be sitting out here right now. She was here today because she was there that night in Oklahoma City when this happened. But anyhow, we're in this Baptist church. We're in this Baptist church. And we'd never been there before. And so they had some congregational singing. And in the church, the preacher is walking up and down the aisles. He's a very friendly chap, and he's meeting all the people. Hello, hello. Before the service starts, he's greeting everybody and so forth. And then the congregation stands and to sing, and they're saying, "We're in the front row because we're going to go up to sing next after the singing is done with the congregation." And so we're standing there and everything, and that preacher goes up front because he's all wore out now. He's big, real big. I mean, you have one of these pews, you know, that takes up 2 people, but it was just him. You get the drift. And so he gets up, and he's all wore out now, so he sits on this pew. And as he sits down, he's going, ah! And as he sits down, we notice something that was really not good. And we notice that his zipper is wide open. And out of the zipper are some of his shirt hanging out through the zipper. And so my wife and I and Sister Sarah are standing there, and Sarah's saying, honey, you gotta tell him. I said, how do I tell him? Because he's still doing this. We're just sitting there. And his son is leading singing. And so Sister Sarah, you gotta know my Sister Sarah, she's already red as a strawberry. And she's just cracking up, and I said, shh, don't do that. They say, you gotta go tell him. I said, all right, I'll tell him. Because, you know, now there's a lot of other folk that have noticed this. So I said, all right, I'll go tell him. You know, you pray, I tell. And so I go up in front of him, and I start walking up, and as I go up in front of him, I go up one step and another step. And I go up, then I lean over, and I said, Pastor, yes? You know, he's like, yes. And I said, don't look now, but your zipper is open. Now, I may as well would have not even said anything about don't look now. Because the moment I said, don't look now, your zipper's open, he just jumps up and I fly back down off the stage because he gives me one of these shoulder things. And he just jumps up and I go back down again and he goes over behind the pulpit and he just does this thing. And he sits down and goes, ah! And then we're supposed to go up and sing. It was terrible. We've never been back, because I could not even go back.
Hey, can you give these guys a big hand for all the fun stories and stuff that they've done?